it's really two things. The first thing is that at 57 years old, I still have all my body parts and I want to keep them. And the second thing is I'm approaching retirement and I want to be able to participate in life with as little physical pain and physical ailments as possible.
Welcome back to Unstoppable After 50. On this episode, I invited my friend Avery Manko to join me to discuss his recent serious transformation from, just an average kind of guy training to really upping his game in his late 50s at a very high level, and doing it via an old school protocol of kettlebells and sandbags. It's a very interesting conversation with a lot of great tips, so stay tuned for this conversation with Avery Manko. Avery, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here.
Yeah, listen, it's good reconnecting. You and I have known each other, I know it's over 10 years.
Yeah.
And listen, I reached out to you recently because I see what you're doing. You're sharing some great content about the way you're working out these days. You and I are very close in age. I'm a couple years older than you, but you've really made an amazing transformation, at least in my opinion,
Thank you.
with the way you look, with what you're doing. I see the numbers you're posting. I'm like, damn, some of those numbers are pretty good. Some of those zone minutes you're getting. Right. So, Avery, I wanted to bring you on because I thought this would be a good conversation, because a lot of guys, they haven't hit that level of motivation yet. They haven't hit that real reason why they need to be working out as consistently as both you and I are doing. So I'd love to hear, what was that spark? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't have that spark a few years ago. What was that spark and to drive you to do what you're doing these days?
Well, I have been working out for a long time, but really didn't get serious till about 2012. And by the way, I used to use the words working out. I don't use working out anymore. I use training. And the reason why I use the word training is different than working out, because I'm training for life. Working out is different. That's what I did when I was 25. I wanted to look good, whatever. And training is what somebody in our age group should do to be able to live their life to the fullest. So what was the spark? What motivated me? I'm at that age, we're at that age where we're caring for older parents. We have older people in our lives. And what I noticed was that there seems to be kind of like two different groups. There's a group that took care of themselves and, they're still playing golf and they're still traveling the world and so forth, which is a true story. We have a friend who's 82. He still plays golf. He travels the world. He has a house at the shore and he goes back and forth. He lives by himself in a big house that he manages. And then there are people who maybe didn't take care of themselves and they're not feeling so great. They're physically, they're ailing. And I see, I'm 57. I see 20 years in front of me. I'm going to be 77. How do I want to live? And I want to be in that first category. I know a guy who's 89 and he's still swinging a kettlebell at 89 years old. I want to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think a lot of, people in general, but, we're obviously focused on guys here, this podcast, just they're not thinking about, right? We all think, especially as we're younger, where everything is like, oh, there's plenty of time. I'll do it later. I'll get healthy later. I'll worry about that later. I've got to, work and, start a family and all that stuff. And it becomes something that before you know it, as you and I both can attest to, in a blink, you're in your late 50s, right?
Totally. 100%.
And I think this goal of being functionally healthy. I don't know if you saw my interview with Professor Scott Fulton a couple weeks ago. He wrote a great book, by the way, Avery. If you didn't see it, it's called Function, and it's just a book of tests.
That sounds like my kind of book.
Oh, it's a great book. It really is. I can't recommend it enough. And it's just a little handbook of tests that you do to sort of self-assess, which is what you're talking about.
Right.
Now, one of the things that really caught my eye with your social media posts was you're going old school. the way in what you're how you're training and what you're
Right.
doing on a daily basis.
Right.
So, tell me more about your old school protocol and what that looks like.
Sure. So in 2012, I discovered kettlebells. I joined a local kettlebell gym. I was there for 10 years, fell in love with kettlebells. Kettlebells are, I mean, it's an implement. It's just one implement that's like a gym all by itself. And I learned how to use them there. I left the gym in 22 and I decided I wanted to train at home. And I trained in my garage. And sometimes I train when it gets real cold, I'll train in my kitchen. And the kettlebells, sandbags, mace bells, and slam balls, they don't take up a lot of space. So it's a practical reason. Also, uh, using those tools, your body uses compound movements rather than isolation movements. So you get more work done in a shorter amount of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it's another similarity we have. I joined a kettlebell gym in 2012. I didn't last, I think, till 2020. That long. I lasted, and the guy that trained you and I both know, Pat Flynn.
Yeah,
Um, you know, it was I had never used a kettlebell until I started working out with him. And
right,
then Avery, and I know you're a Jersey Shore guy.
right,
One of my craziest stories was I got so into kettlebells at the time. I brought kettlebells to the beach and did a workout on the beach just because I didn't want to miss my kettlebell day. And it was a cool photo shoot. But yeah. So tell me more for someone who may not be, maybe this is a new topic, kettlebells, some of this old school stuff. Why should they potentially consider that versus going to a gym, dumbbells, whatever it might be?
like I said previously, um, you use compound movements when you train with kettlebells, and the other implements as well. By the way, kettlebells is really like the focal point, and the other three are um, ancillary. I just use them. But I go into a training session, do a workout with the idea I'm using kettlebells, but
Quick pause. If you're not getting my Unstoppable After 50 playbook, you're missing out. Every week, I send a one-page playbook with my key interview takeaways and simple actions to help you stay strong and in control. Get it free each week at unstoppableafter50.com. Now back to the show. I remember Pat Flynn always saying it's a very efficient tool. A kettlebell, there's no upkeep on it. You want to keep it, clean and rust free. And other than that, there's no maintenance on a kettlebell. They are
right.
portable. The other
Yep.
thing, unlike a rack of dumbbells that goes from 5 pounds to, let's say, 75 pounds, which can be huge. Now I have an adjustable dumbbell set I use, so that minimizes space, but they're very, they don't take up a lot of space.
Right.
And you can do a lot of lifts. And you mentioned these compound moves. I know you're a proponent of organizing your workouts around 7 fundamental movements. Can you break those down for my audience and really tell guys why they need to worry about them?
Sure. So as human beings, we move in 7 fundamental ways. We push, pull, hinge, squat, lunge, rotate, and carry. We also move through 3 planes of motion: sagittal, frontal, and transverse. So I'll tell you why this is important. Training the 7 fundamental movement patterns across the 3 planes of motion using compound movements is you're getting a lot done in a really short amount of time. I don't like if I work out, if I train for 20 minutes, yeah, I use workout, but if I train for 20 minutes, that's a lot. Like the other day, I posted something on Facebook. I went over my 20 minutes because I did a ladder, but um, uh, usually the workouts are anywhere from 16 minutes to 20 minutes. But when you use the when you're training the 7 fundamental movement patterns across the 3 planes of motion using compound movements, you don't need to have these really long workouts. You get a lot done in a short amount of time. Okay, so the 7 fundamental movement patterns: pull, it's self-explanatory. Push, self-explanatory. Push, pull, hinge, that's like bending over to pick something up off the ground. Push, pull, hinge, squat, self-explanatory. Push, pull, hinge, squat, lunge, like walking up steps, lunging. Rotate, we're constantly rotating as human beings, like, I'm going to get this and I'm going to reach over here, grab that, like we're rotating. And then carry, which is what it sounds like. You're carrying things. You may be walking and carrying it, or you might be holding it and carrying it. And then the three planes of motion, sagittal, which is back and forth, up and down, which is when you go to a gym and you use the gym equipment, the equipment that's like, the I don't know, a press machine or something like that. You're basically working the sagittal plane only for the most part. So there's the sagittal, so it's back and forth, up and down. Transverse is side to side. Think of walking down the boardwalk in the middle of July and you're dodging all these people, right? So that's a common thing that happens. And then rotate, or I'm sorry, transverse, which is like rotation. So we're constantly rotating as human beings. So so is it possible to train all seven across all three in one workout? Not likely. So what you would do is if you document your workouts, you can look back on a previous workout and say, okay, here's what I did. This one I did a lot of pull and a lot of hinge, and I did some squatting. So now I'm going to try to work some of the other ones. And it looks like I was in the sagittal plane and the transverse plane. So this one, I'm going to attempt to do something that's in the transverse plane. So I don't know. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, it does. And what does your training routine look like these days? You're not training every day, are you?
3 days a week.
3 days a week. All right.
3 days a week. Yeah.
And I know, and you kind of alluded to it. I've heard you say it, that you believe focusing and measuring your workouts based on time versus counting reps, which is sort of really kind of counter what everyone you read about and hear about.
Right.
Why is that approach so important, do you think?
So I don't know how I stumbled across this, but I realized the example that I use is that you don't go out and rake leaves for 10 reps. You go out and rake leaves for 10 minutes. You don't walk the beach for 3 sets of 10. You walk the beach for 30 minutes. So we go through life, we go through time as we go through life. So, do I count reps? Yeah, but the main measurement is time. So I mentioned I did a ladder on Monday. I time it, and the next time I do a ladder, I'm going to try to beat that time. So I always like to know how much time I spend during the workout if I'm counting reps. But most of my workouts are 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off for 16 minutes, or 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off for 20 minutes, or 30 on, 30 off. And you get a lot done.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I am, drenched in sweat, zones 4 and 5, and they can be quite brutal.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're hitting zone 5, whew,
Right.
boy.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's addictive. It really is addictive.
Yeah.
And I bought a Polar H10 heart rate
Mm-hmm.
monitor. Are you familiar with it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome. I mean, you
Yeah.
got the app and you're looking right at it and you're like, wow,
I just used mine this morning.
it's some cool stuff. It
Yeah.
really is. Technology is awesome.
Right. And and we're going to talk about some of that coming here in a second, but it really is important. Like when you and I were growing up, we didn't have all those tools, 20, 30 years ago. Right. And nowadays, I mean, I used to laugh at people that would count their steps and, tracked all this stuff. And now I can't imagine not wearing a smartwatch. I can't imagine not using a heart rate monitor. Right. When I'm doing, I don't use it when I'm lifting weights. I'm doing it when I'm doing my air bike, treadmill, when I'm doing my cardiovascular training. Now, that's a question I wanted to ask you. Is your cardiovascular training just part of your kettlebell training, Avery? Are you doing anything in addition to, the kettlebells and all
Right.
that?
So the short answer is kind of. So yeah, I use the kettlebell training as my cardio. I count it towards cardio.
Yep.
Um, but I also do very light cardio on the off days. I live in a nice neighborhood. I put on a weight vest. I go for a power walk through the neighborhood,
Hmm.
get my heart rate up a little bit, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming you're probably maybe zone two, which is, it's
Yes.
a nice moderate walk, and that's a good,
Right. Yep.
and something I've learned even recently, which again is crazy because I can't believe like how I could be 60 and now just still learning stuff that I should have known years ago. But walking after dinner is such a great, and you don't even need to do zone two after dinner, but
Right.
just to get that
Right.
blood sugar down
Right. Right.
and lower the, possibilities of inflammation and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's been something I've added recently.
Yeah. I can tell you that the heart rate monitor really changed the way I trained.
Mm,
Absolutely. It got me focused on getting that heart rate up, getting into zone four, touching zone five, sometimes a little too much. And I discovered this thing called Epoch. You familiar with Epoch? Excess post oxygen consumption.
mm,
So, okay,
no.
so I went down a bunch of rabbit holes. That's how I discovered the fundamental movement patterns, the three planes of motion, compound movement, all this stuff. So, EPOC, excess post oxygen consumption, when you get up into zones four and five, after you work out, your body continues to burn calories. It continues to burn energy. It requires energy to get back to normal. So when you get up into zones four and five, your EPOC might be, your afterburn might be 12 hours.
Mm.
You're burning calories, extra calories, because your body's getting back to normal. Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Are you so this focus on the heart rate monitor in zones 4 and 5 and getting up there, is that relatively new, Avery, or were you doing that even back in 2012?
No, that's new. That's new. That
Okay.
was yeah, that was probably, let's see, I think I started that in the summer.
Okay. So
Yeah.
almost a year, right?
Right.
What practical results or what practical benefits have, because so many times people are like, oh, I feel better than I've ever felt in my life, but guys
Yeah.
like you and I think we're probably a little more grounded. Like,
Yeah.
what difference has that made?
So I would say really two things. I would say I have more energy
Hmm.
because I'm getting up into zone four and five, so I'm increasing my VO2 max and all that stuff. More energy, actually three things: more capability
Hmm.
in the four and five. I'm not getting gassed, and then recovery. I think I
Yep.
recover faster.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's funny you mentioned that. I just started measuring. I learned it from that function book, heart rate recovery,
Hmm.
and my heart rate recovery is really good for my age, and that's because I've been training and really shifting my focus from just getting steps every day, for example, to really
Right.
trying to build my intensity minutes
Right.
and doing that.
Right.
You had mentioned logging your information, and I know it's almost practically impossible in 2026 not to be using AI in some capacity. And
Right.
I have found myself using AI as a training tool, asking questions that I don't know answers to, stuff
Yep.
like that, building routines. We're
Yep.
going to talk about some unique ways you build some of your routines. But what are you doing with AI, Avery, that other guys might find helpful and beneficial?
So I document all of my workouts. I started doing it over the summer, and I have I have it tracked, or I have it documenting several things. If you don't mind, I'm going to look at my thing here because there's
Hmm.
sections. So the first thing is I have it I have it analyze the workout itself. It's called a performance review. Tells me, this is a high intensity, low body workout, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Then I have it analyzing the compound movements, the movements themselves, what areas they're working. Um, then the planes of motion. So there's three planes of motion, as I mentioned earlier. So did this which movements in the workout uh, uh, met with the, or I'm sorry, which movements in the workout were sagittal or transverse or frontal. And then it analyzes the 7 compound movements. So, like I said previously, not every workout uses all 7 fundamental movement patterns. So, um, it will tell me. So it'll list the different exercises that I did, and then show which pattern that it met. And then it analyzes the aerobic anaerobic balance. So I'm looking at a workout here from Monday. It was 38% aerobic, 62% anaerobic.
Hmm.
And then the Epoch potential, so the afterburn potential, it calculates a general idea of how much afterburn I'm going to get from this, and then it gives me suggestions.
Hmm.
This one I use primarily for my next workout. So it'll say, this workout, you went through this plane of motion and that plane of motion, and you use this fundamental pattern and this pattern and this pattern. So in your next workout, um, maybe you should think about a squat and a lunge and a push. So then that helps me build my workout or my training session the next time.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I got to ask you because when I was doing this is even for my own edification. When I was doing the classes at Dragon Gym years ago, I did find myself, and I was probably one of the older students. There was some firefighters and police officers in there. So these guys are, I'm a desk jockey, sitting at a computer all the time. And I did find myself getting hurt frequently. And this is now guess I'm in my late 40s at that point, early 50s. How are you staying injury free?
So I stretch.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I do that actually 5 days a week.
Good for
I
you.
have a
Yeah.
5 minute routine, and then I have another routine. I think it's 40 seconds on, 7 seconds off because I'm moving through the movements pretty quick, and I do it twice. I think it's probably total time is around 15 minutes, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. But the other thing is, when I went when I went to the kettlebell gym, the owner of the kettlebell gym says, I have 2 rules. I won't say the first rule because I don't think it would be appropriate in this forum. But the second rule is step out when you need to.
Hmm.
And he was training people that were in our age group and older. And so he encouraged us to not overdo it. You're not 25 anymore. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why I've been able to remain injury free. Not to say that I haven't pulled a this or that, but I haven't had to take very much time off due to injury. I drink a lot of water, so I'm not sure if that helps, but yeah, the stretching and then knowing my limitations.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's a key thing. I've hit on that a number of times on this podcast. I mean, as guys, I don't know about you, but I'm going to assume, it's still as you age, you remember what you did at 20. I remember what it was
Right,
like to work out. I remember driving
right,
to the gym and working out for a couple hours.
sure,
It was crazy, and
right,
and we both went to Penn State. I remember going to
right,
Rec Hall and working
right,
out. Like
totally,
it's still.
right,
And as you age, I think it's one of those challenges for a lot of guys to say, hey, listen, I am not that person anymore. And to think that I could work out like that at that intensity level or whatever it is, it's just like you said, it's sort of a reframing of what's expected and really working out within those lanes.
yeah. I mean, we really have to watch ourselves, because we may be thinking like we're 25 and thinking that we're still strong and all that, but you're 57 years old, you're 60 years old. You gotta temper that. I can tell you, it's just sort of a funny story about the kettlebell gym. There would be a guy that would come in who'd be brand new, and and then he would leave, and then after the session, sometimes we'd be milling around afterwards, and someone would say, "Oh, you see that guy over there? Yeah, yeah, he's not coming back." Well, why isn't he coming back? Well, because he was standing next to little. There's men and women in there, and I'm just thinking of this one particular woman. I won't say her name, but let's just say her name was Mary. Mary is 5'1", 110 pounds, but she's jacked, and she's in her mid 50s, but she's an athlete, and she's using the yellow bell, which is 16 kilograms. But so he's the new guy. Oh, if she's using the yellow bell, I got to use the yellow bell. And what happens is he gets smoked,
Yeah.
and he gets worn out, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't for me," and he quits.
Yeah.
So, keeping your eyes on your own paper, knowing your limitations, what Clint Eastwood would say, a man has got to know his limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing your limitations is important. It'll keep
Yeah.
you, it'll help you sustain the training.
And I'll tell you what, if you've never used kettlebells, they'll humble you real quick.
Seriously, they will smoke you.
Oh
You'll
my
you'll
gosh.
use muscles you didn't know you had.
We
Yeah,
used to Pat had this crazy thing. And I can remember we'd come into the class. He's like, okay, we're doing the 300 swing day,
yeah,
where I think it was like 300 swings. And I forget.
yeah,
It was, and it doesn't sound like a lot. It's a lot.
yeah.
But one last thing, and then I want to touch upon a cool little tool you've developed. But have you noticed, and this is sort of an open, an obvious answer question. I've noticed this myself, though. The more I functionally train farmer carries and things that, like you were saying, the better I am day to day. So just yesterday, I was carrying for my wife, because we have a pool, two 40-pound bags of salt. I think there was 10 or 15 of them down a hill, back down to our backyard to the pool. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. This is easy for me to do. Have you noticed the same thing, Avery? Like just the day-to-day movements and being capable, being a much
100%.
better?
Absolutely, 100%. So functional training, which is what we're talking about this whole time, functional training is training for life. It's true. One of the examples I used in the conversation recently is if you can bench 400 pounds, it doesn't really mean anything if you
Mm.
can't open up a jar of pickles. You know what I mean? So, we're at that age where, if you sneeze too hard, you might pull your back out, or like you can get injured getting out of bed in the morning. And so functional training helps to alleviate that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, um, I feel myself being able to navigate life
Hmm.
more effectively and efficiently.
And confidently, right?
And
Confidently
confident,
too, for
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
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 Yeah,
For
no
sure.
joke. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I want you to share, because you developed a neat little tool for yourself, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to share on the podcast, because it's a tool for yourself that you've developed for yourself to keep
Right.
you motivated. Can you share that, and
Sure.
maybe do a little market research here, and we'll invite people to
Right.
potentially reach out to you if they think it's a
Right.
good
Yeah.
idea.
Because frankly, it's not really ready for prime time, but it's something I've been messing around with for about 2 years. And so, my background, and so I have the skills to be able to create a exercise workout cards. And so I don't know if I can't, can you see them?
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, okay, because I can't see hang on a second, maybe if I, nope, okay, well, I can't see what I'm showing you here. So these are, there's two types. There's the blue card, which is, can you see that?
Hmm.
Which is the format. So so that's a 3-2-1 14-minute EMOM. Here's one. Here's, like I said, it's not ready for prime time, so I write over them sometimes when I come up with something different. But here's two exercises, a 1 to 10 ladder, that kind of thing. And then so I'll choose randomly a workout, a 10-minute EMOM. Okay, and then I will go to my black cards, which are exercises.
Hmm.
So let's see. I'm going to do a 10-minute EMOM, and let's pretend, with a 10-minute EMOM, it's going to have to be something kind of
What's an EMOM, Avery?
every minute on the minute.
Okay.
Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I am. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure
Okay.
everyone else knew. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Every minute on the minute. So you have a specified amount of time at the top of every minute. You do a specified amount of reps, and then you rest for the remainder of the minute. So we'll just pick this one, a double thruster, the kettlebell. It's a lot of work right there. So I could do just that as a workout and do like maybe 8 reps or 10 reps of a double thruster over 10 minutes. So that's a lot of work over 10 minutes. But let's say I wanted to do minute one, I'll do the double thrusters, and then I'll pick another card and we'll do, let's just pick a card here, a sandbag deadlift.
Hmm.
So now I'm using a different implement and a different set of muscles, and then so I could do those and just alternate them, or maybe I could pick 3 more that would, and then just do it twice over 10 minutes.
So this is just a tool you've developed for yourself, just to add what, a little bit of variety, a little bit
Yeah,
of
yeah.
something new. You're not just doing the same old, same old. Is that the point?
I never do the same workout twice.
Hmm.
Never. The only time I do that is when I'll like, sometimes I'll do Dan John's
Mm-hmm.
armor building complex. Are you familiar with that?
Not that specific. I know who Dan
Yeah.
Johns is.
I
Yeah.
actually learned that from watching Pat, um, and because he interviews, well, he and Dan John have a podcast, and I watch that from time to time. Dan John's a legendary strength coach. Anyway, so he has this thing called the armor building complex. So I'll do that occasionally. Um, but yeah, I never do the same workout twice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I think those cards, I mean, I know, just for certain people, they want that variety. They want to be able to say, hey, have a little bit of fun and then say, okay, here's what I'm working on doing today. And it's sort of a
right.
surprise. Not like they're, dreading it because they know they're doing the same thing again. It's something new. So
Right.
yeah, I think
And
there's an opportunity
it's
there.
and it's random. So
Right.
like most of the time, like today, I was looking at the cards because I'm on the interview with you, but typically it's random. Like I'll just pull a card out and be like, no, that doesn't go with that,
Right.
or I'll say, wow, that's a very powerful combination, and that, what I really, and then maybe the third or fourth exercise, I might not go to the cards because this and this really
Mm-hmm.
pairs well with and like I said previously, my typical training session is 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 16 minutes, or 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off for 20 minutes. And I mean, I do have those other blue cards, and I do them, but usually that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Those two formats.
Yeah, well, I think it was a deal meal. Were the deal meal cards? Was
Yeah,
that what
yeah.
it was? Remember
Richardson's
those, right?
deal. Yeah,
I think
yep,
they probably did pretty well over the years, and I think it was same concept but for
yeah,
eating.
right.
So Avery, share your contact information. You have a fairly new YouTube channel you started. Share all that information for my audience so they can connect with
Right.
you if they want to.
So thanks, Mike. The YouTube channel is Fit and Functional Over 50. It's new, and I'm still putting new content up there. I'm aiming to do it once a week. I've been pretty good with doing it once a week. Um, but yeah, it starts off right now. It's all kettlebell work, and I will be doing videos on sandbag and mace bell and slam ball. So it focuses on those 4 implements. And the idea is compound movements, 3 planes of motion, 7 fundamental movement patterns.
And before we wrap up, Avery, I have my Unstoppable After 50 trifecta. It's 3 quick questions, 3 quick
Yep.
answers. So
Yep.
the first one is, what do you think is one cold, hard truth guys over 50 need to hear?
You're not 25 anymore.
Amen.
I mean, you got to train, but be sensible.
Mm,
Yep.
yeah.
You're not 25 anymore.
What do you think is something a lot of guys are doing that's silently wrecking their future?
I would say letting life get in the way,
Mm,
living a sedentary lifestyle, saying I'll get to it. We
mm,
talked about that early on. All of a sudden life just passes you by. So yeah, I would say those three things, one of those three things, or all of them.
And finally, what is something a guy can go do this week, Avery, to stay unstoppable?
I would say that if you're not training, set aside 10 minutes, 12 minutes to do something. You could do it in front of the television. You could do it in your kitchen. You could do whatever. Just do something for 10 to 12 minutes that gets your heart rate up. And I would say if you already are training, consider training the 7 fundamental movement patterns, the 3 planes of motion, and the across the 3 planes of motion, and using compound movements.
Very good. Well, Avery, again, I think it's very cool to, first of all, to reconnect after it's been a few years since you and I had touched base, but also just to see what you're doing, the new YouTube channel, trying to help guys. I love it. And, I'll be anxious to see, what other content you're putting out there. So thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike. This has been great. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Avery, and I hope you took away some key pointers. I think it's really impressive what Avery has done over the last few years, and more recently, even in the past year, with this refocus. And it really coincides with my own refocusing on really, creating intense minutes throughout the day versus just some metrics like getting steps, etc. So make sure you check out his new YouTube channel and see what he's doing and support him. And if you like what I'm doing here with Unstoppable After 50, please make sure you like and subscribe to the show. Go check out the YouTube channel. Appreciate you subscribing there. And also make sure you check out unstoppableafter50.com and sign up for my weekly playbook. Every week I send a recap to my group of men who've asked for it, a PDF that's designed to be printed and saved, and it's a recap of that previous week's episode. So check out unstoppableafter50.com.